Sam Kahn of The Athletic joins us now. And Sam, I reached out to you this morning. I know that you've got tons of stuff to do today, and I really appreciate you hopping on. But starting off right off the bat, UTSA wide receiver Zakhari Franklin currently was, well, until this weekend, the most sought-after player in the portal. He leaves and goes to Ole Miss. It was a long time. I mean, relatively, given that he was in compared to everybody else that kind of went in at the same time as he did. How did this kind of shake out with him and Lane Kiffin at Ole Miss?
Yeah, I think it was just mainly trying to find the right fit. Zakhari's been at UTSA now 4 years. He was, the only program he's been a part of. He's been there with a bunch of guys that he really developed a chemistry with. Frank Harris and Josh Cephas and J.T. Clark and Oscar Cardenas and of course Coach Jeff Traylor and that staff. And this is his last chance to really prove that he can play at a level that will get him noticed at the next level. And I would argue that I think NFL scouts would have noticed him anyway at UTSA, but I think there's something to be said for going to the SEC and proving it there. And that was really, I think, one of the biggest impetus for him to make the move was like, hey, go, you've proven yourself as one of the best players in the country in the group of five level. Now let's go do it at a higher level. And then obviously, there's going to be some other opportunities there for him. But I think, when you look at Lane Kiffin's offense and what you can do, the numbers you can kind of put up, he likes to throw the ball. They like to go at a high tempo. They've got some, really good. He's got a really good history of developing quarterbacks and getting really productive receivers. I think it's a really good match for those two, and I think you're going to see Zakhari Franklin really make some waves in the SEC.
Sam, just UTSA in general, that's obviously a blow for them. But I guess if there's one thing that Jeff Traylor and company have been able to do, they've been able to do a lot of things, but they're not lacking in skill talent. Obviously having Frank Harris back, also have a couple of pretty good wide receivers that'll be rolling back as well. But, I mean, I'm sure you've heard it. We know Jeff Traylor pretty well. He's a school that's definitely, a prime poaching ground because of their ability to evaluate talent. Any idea of just kind of the frustrations on their end after this move?
Yeah, definitely, because it also happened 2 days before the portal closed. I think Zakhari went in on April 28th. The spring window closed on April 30th. And Jeff Traylor and his staff and the administration, everybody at UTSA, have tried to do everything they can to keep their players. Jeff has been very active and aggressive about vocalizing the collectives that they have at UTSA and the NIL ventures that they have there. And he's said it. Anytime you talk to him or anytime you see him do a press conference, he's hammering that, hey, we've got to get our staff salaries up because we've lost 6 coaches to Power 5 programs in the last 2 years. We've got to get our NIL up because we want to keep as many of these players. You want this program to be successful, we got to make sure these players are compensated. And I think by and large, when we compare where UTSA is in the college football landscape and how they're doing NIL, they're doing actually a pretty good job. I think they've done pretty well on the NIL front. But there's also going to be opportunities for guys, and there's going to be a level that UTSA cannot reach at that, and that big perennial power programs or programs in conferences like the SEC or the Big Ten are going to be able to do things that UTSA is not going to be able to do because UTSA has only been in existence as a football program since 2011. And so we're not talking about generations and generations of fans for this football program, and this is still very much a budding, growing program. And so that's a challenge that they're going to have to fight. And it is frustrating for Jeff Traylor. It is frustrating for that staff because you're right. They're one of the best staff in this state, maybe one of the best in the country at identifying and developing talent. You look at some of the guys they sent to the draft, some of these guys were really low rated. Heck, Zakhari Franklin was a 2-star recruit in the 247 composite. He was ranked 2,722nd in the country. And that's a guy that they went in and got. So it is frustrating, but at the same time, they did benefit a lot from his presence. And I think they'll be just fine. It sucks to lose him, but they'll be fine because they've got Frank Harris, because they've got Josh Cephas, because they've got J.T. Clark, because they've got Oscar Cardenas. They'll be just fine this year going to the AAC.
Who do you think the quarterback that will be throwing the ball to Zakhari Franklin the most will be?
Oh, it's going to be Frank. I mean, it's Frank. I'm sorry. You mean Ole Miss. Sorry, yeah. That's right. I'm still in UTSA mode. Yeah. So who are the guys there? Spencer Sanders still there?
Yeah.
And Jackson Dart still there? Who's all there right
Walker
now?
Howard.
Oh gosh, that's a really tough choice. I would venture to guess Spencer Sanders. He's only got 1 year, and I feel like you don't grad transfer unless you're going to be the guy. Walker Howard's still got some time left, and I think ultimately he's the long-term option for them. So I think it's one of those two. But I think if I were betting this year, I'd say Spencer Sanders. He gives them some mobility. He's a veteran. He's won big games. He's taken his team to the Big 12 championship game. He's been through so much. And I think that experience is it's so hard to replace, and I think it's going to give him an edge over everybody else.
Sam, as we're hitting like this last 4 or 5 week stretch before Big 12 Media Days, obviously there will be a lot to talk about there, but just what are maybe a couple of the storylines, whether it's, obviously there's a lot of the realignment buzz going on right now. There's I guess the portal's quieted down. Is realignment kind of the biggest topic you would say for the next few weeks until media days pop off, and just in that regard, what are your thoughts on kind of all the rumors swirling out there right now, especially in regards to the Big 12?
Yeah, I think until the Pac-12 media deal gets done, or until the Big 12 makes some kind of move, I think that's going to be the dominant topic of conversation. I will say that personally, I'm looking forward to talking about actual ball. Mm-hmm. That this is the time of year we get into June, July, and we get into the realignment topics, and we've been talking about it for so long that I get a little bit tired of it, unfortunately. But
sure.
But it's good for business, and we're in the interest of serving our readers and our listeners, and they love it. So we're going to give it to them. But I think that's going to be top of mind, certainly. The future of this conference, I think, is going to be a storyline just in general, because we see where the SEC is, we see where the Big Ten is. It feels like they're on their own island financially compared to the rest of the conferences, and the fight is going to be who is in that next tier. Is the Big 12 in that next tier? Is that the third best conference that you're talking about when you're talking about profile, revenue, all those things? Is it going to be ACC? Where's the Pac-12 fit in? I think where the future of this conference is going to be is a big talking point. And me personally, when I go into Big 12 Media Days, I really want to know who's going to win the league. I really look at it as a wide open. I think we've discussed it before. It's a wide open league, in my opinion. I think you're going to see when the poll comes out, probably Texas or Kansas State's going to be in one of those top two, probably occupying those top two spots. But then after that, I feel like, gosh, it could be any number of teams that could be in contention for the conference title. And I think this is a really exciting time to be following this conference, because there are so many teams that I think could be a factor that you really don't know year to year what you're going to end up with at AT&T Stadium in December.
Sam, Texas is in the perpetual loop of if not now, when. And this is their last chance to win the Big 12. It might be their last chance to win the conference for a little while, as they transition into the SEC next season. Is this the best they have been setup-wise to win the conference since maybe 2009 or 10?
Yeah, I would say certainly – definitely since I would say in the post-Mac Brown era, yes. This is definitely the best things have lined up. I think 2018, things lined up pretty well also, but I would argue and say that they had a good roster that Tom Herman brought in, and they got to the Big 12 championship. They ended up losing Oklahoma, but I still thought they were building at that point, and I thought there was another level for them to get to, and they never really got it. I will say that the way Steve Sarkisian has built this roster, the way they've recruited, the way they've done their staff, I saw that just last week they hired Paul Christ and a few others. So they've really done it. He's really done a good job from a staff standpoint. It seems like they're doing everything right over there. The NIL is on the cutting edge. The staff is really good. The roster, the offensive and defensive line recruiting has been really good. Obviously, the quarterback recruiting has been really good. So they're doing everything right. And I do think that they're a legitimate contender to win the title. I don't think that's just preseason, poll or Texas Rider hype. I think it's they're legit, perhaps the most talented team in the conference. And when you look at their trajectory, and the way they took a step up last year and where they're going and the talent they returned, I really do think they're in a good spot. And I do think this, if you're a Texas fan, you got to feel better about the direction of the program right now than you have probably at any point in the post-Mac Brown era.
What do you make of TCU trying to reload after last season? It seems Sam, like they could have something pretty well set up there with Sonny Dykes where they just, reload at the skill spots, which is probably easier than ever given the transfer portal makes it easier than ever to do that. I mean, they're replacing a lot, but, man, there's no lack of confidence coming out of that place. Do you feel like that's a program there with Sonny Dykes where it's just such a perfect fit that they're going to be able to maybe be a bit better despite all they lost following last year's terrific run?
Yeah, I think it's hard to be better than they were, obviously, and I don't know that they can ever replicate a run like that. But I will say, as a program, it is an exciting time for them because they just kind of scratched the surface of what they could do. They took a really talented roster, and you got to give Gary Patterson credit because the heart and soul of that team was what he recruited. Now that said, he struggled a lot with that because he had kind of fallen behind in a lot of other areas as a coach. And that's where I think Sonny Dykes picked it up. But now you've done it 1 year, so now what can you do this next year? I love what they've done in the portal. They've reloaded at receiver. They've added they added a quarterback for depth. They added Trey Sanders at running back. They added a defensive lineman in the corner. So I think they've done a really good job there. To me, where their ceiling can rise is if they can raise up that high school recruiting a little bit. Last year, they had a class, I think, that ranked 19th or 20th in the country. It's the highest that TCU has ever been in the modern internet recruiting rankings era. Can they push into that top 15? Can they start to get some more of those guys that Texas and Texas A&M and Oklahoma want? If they can get a few more of those guys and start filling out that high school class and those developmental guys a little bit better and a little bit more consistently, and just I think it's hard to do top 10 if you're TCU. It's hard to recruit at that level. But if you can just be a top 20 national recruiting program consistently, boy, you've got yourself in a really, really good spot in the future of the Big 12. And I do think when you consider their resources, their location, their donor base, I think everything that they have points to a chance to really be a big-time factor in the future of the Big 12.
Sam Kahn, the Techspert from The Athletic. Go ahead.
I got one more question. What are your thoughts on the SEC schedule, Sam? You know that little nagging topic from last week. we already brought up realignment. I had to bring up the other annoying topic that everybody's probably sick of at this point. But, I mean, we've talked plenty of A&M with you over the years. You know that program very well. It's a very interesting time with Texas sliding in there along with Oklahoma. They're going to figure it out. Is this just simply a money thing in your mind and too much ado about nothing in the end?
I think it is a money thing. I think it probably has more to do with, hey, they want as much money as they can get from ESPN to get that ninth conference game up, as opposed to what's already built into the contract. My take is just get it done. Just get it done and give a sign. If there is any world that we have that does not include Texas and Texas A&M playing every single season, then they have royally screwed up. And that it's because ultimately, why do we follow these games? Why do we love college football? One of the biggest things we love about it is the rivalry. We don't root for the teams because we want our team to pull in an extra $10, $20 million a year in revenue. We're not sitting here rooting on the bank accounts. We're rooting for our teams on Saturday. And there's nothing that gives you those good feelings or those emotional feelings quite like playing against your rival. And that doesn't just go for Texas A&M. That goes for Georgia and Auburn. That goes for Alabama and Tennessee and all these other teams that have multiple rivals. Just get it done. Make sure we do this because ultimately, if people talk so much about NIL and one-time transfer rule and media eligibility to ruin the sport. It's decisions like this where you put off what's best for the sport. It's breaking up rivalries or not allowing rivalries to be played every year. That's what's really harmful to the sport long term, because that's when you start to lose fans. Because if you're not emotionally invested in it, then you're going to be less likely to consume the product. And so I do think by this time next year we'll have it done back to with the SEC doing 9 games. But the fact that we're even having to sit here talking about it for another year is preposterous. And I'm ashamed that they had to do that, because to me it's so easy. It's a layup. Just get it done. Everybody will count their money, and let's move on.
Sam Kahn, the Techspert from The Athletic. Not only an expert, he's also a barbecue expert. I want people to know that. and one day, Sam, when you come into town, we got to hit up a spot. So
yes.
I got one for you if you haven't been there yet. So It's really good. Sam Khan of The Athletic. Sam, thank you so much. I know you're swamped for the rest of the day. Thanks for hopping on.
No problem. Thanks so much, guys. I'll take care.
There you go. Sam Khan of The Athletic. Really